Disclaimer: I have been possessed for 5 years, and I am close to losing my soul. I made this channel in hopes of passing the intelligence down that only the possessed come into contact with to help those who might end up in the same position save their souls. I have been part of an ongoing battle, and am the true second Messiah, with the demons trying to make me the next Antichrist. Possession is misunderstood in the modern world. Before the video begins, if you think you are possessed or genuinely are, I recommend you to start this series from the beginning and watch each video. If you are possessed, this should be a constant study. Good luck. If you are possessed, you don't want any demons, like me if I had lost my soul finding out where you lived. So, make a randomized YouTube account with a randomized name and username, and comment then if you want any help. I'm going to change this YouTube channel password, it's a random email, and I would look from time to time on an alternate account only. If you think that you should ignore this advice, just note that all it takes is something like this, and a few extra things to find out exactly where you live. So do not ignore it, please. Hello, welcome to Possession Help, Episode 4, Lesson 3, about Major Tactic 3, which is violence and threats. General overview of the first two major tactics for those who need revision. Make sure that you remember it all. Major Tactic 1, Off Life Path. Displace your archetypes with others. Frame you as being others, frame them as you. Create fake feeling universe by the fact you made it. Block yourself from being allowed to do things. Entrapment of soul. Major Tactic 2. Use love and genders of archetypes to create an influx scenario capable of allowing the demon to penetrate your nervous system. Example: trying to get a girlfriend archetypally because the demon hag is utilizing you doing this as somebody else, making there a third man, or a second man in the equation, which isn't you but is you. Major Tactic 3. Violence and threats. This serves as both a major and minor tactic. Violence could have had the same impact as Major Tactic 2. I know it can, even though it didn't happen to me. There is no way it can, based off the values here. So, it would have penetrated the nervous system the same way. I'm sure it would have. What about the penetration of the nervous system? Due to physical symptoms stage, violent influx in torment is more useful. After you have physical symptoms, the reasons: you want to hurt others, you're very angry, people framed as hurting you if you perform X or Y activities, etc., like making money, even though there's nobody there, and people who hurt you being framed as doing what you are capable of, like making money, making them look to be you after the penetrative event, which can't be the case because you wouldn't do that to yourself. So, let me start from the beginning. I don't want to throw people under the bus yet again. People have done nothing wrong to me. The demons just made things up. That's what they do. But I got arrested, okay? And before I got arrested, I was dealing with a situation of unfortunate location of home. Thought that I could have been a target of a kidnapping or something like this because I was about to get rich. And I don't throw anyone under the bus because I know I'll be famous one day. But I had good reasons to believe that, and I had warned my mother about this, and she wouldn't let me move back in. And I had someone come around and almost threatened to kick the door down and things like this. And all because apparently someone I knew owed them money and it was nothing to do with me. And he was on the phone to some guy, and the guy was like, does he have any dough? Does he have any money? And the guy who I knew who did it, he said no. And he's lucky, to be honest, because if it was anyone else, I'd have picked up my baseball bat and Yeah, I don't need to go down that path, but I was okay when that happened to me. I knew who did it, who knocked on the door threatening. He was a nice guy who I like. And it was apparently nothing to do with me. But I had contemplated, based off a few prior events of people asking me sketchy questions, okay, that it was going to happen, and it did. And I warned my mother, and she wouldn't let me move back in still. And so ultimately, I was in a position of entrapment where I knew that people knew I was into crypto, and people that were willing to do kidnappings and things like this. So I had no choice but to move out of the house. And I had no reason. I was stupid as a young man. I was only 21 years old. And I wouldn't get a spare room for some reason. I was basically renting my sister's spare room, when a spare room would have solved the problem, and I could have afforded it easily. And I could have afforded a private rental too, but the money I was making was sort of so scarce feeling that you want to make sure that it's all going to the correct cause, which is your crypto portfolio, and so temporary feeling that you sort of just know that it's not going to last forever, and you do not want this to break when you are paying for private rental. So I was okay there temporarily. Well, I got arrested and I couldn't move out, and you know that people are delusional. Okay, there's no way I'd have lived there if I was rich, and it was also a delusional thing that people who really want money, who cannot assume that you would ever quit and things like this. Yeah, we can keep going on. There is a lot of things involved. Opposite flat to me was a bunch of drug addicts, because my father lived in the opposite flat. I was living with my sister. Okay, my father was a drug addict, always constant drug addicts around, so if you can assume that the community was my sister, her narcissistic, abusive boyfriend, and a bunch of drug addicts next door, okay, that's the general surroundings I had. Okay, I have had a lot of sketchy things happen, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, and no one has done anything to me. Again, I'm sort of treading on thin ice just talking about it, not because they're going to do anything, but because of the archetypal construct internally to me. Not really permitting me to be as free talking about this as I would have liked to have been. But I think I would have had more in real life going on than most people who get possessed. So I want to set the ground here and apologise and make you feel a bit more peace and harmony. I had a lot of things come up in my dreams, terrible things, but for the whole 6 years, nothing happened to me more in terms of what goes on in the real world than what had happened that got me possessed in the first place. And with the amount of influx going on, you can assume that that is odd. So the difference is you would have things happen, but it's stuff like you can't make money because your soul's blocked and your physical symptoms. No real world issues from other people, really. Okay, I know I said that my father robbed money out of my bank. It's kind of a small thing. What do you think is going to happen if you have to live with a drug addict? It was nothing from the dreams, projecting, or anything like this. It was just, I'm handicapped. Yes, unable to do anything, and had to deal with the consequences. That is practically it. I did have an event of someone trying to kick down my door, early possession, okay, and I linked it to, and this is the sketchiest part about it, and I will, after I explain this, go on into another further explanation to give you peace and harmony of mind. So, my sister was going to Wales for the weekend, okay, and I was at my friend's party, And I warned my friends. I was like, my sister's going to Wales for the weekend, which means that people who like my sister, if they wanted to do anything, will try. And I was right, and not right at the same time, because she went to Wales. Someone tried to kick down the door, and I got my computer and belongings and went to my friend's house for the weekend. And the facts are that you are okay. I know you're building a universe, right? I want to set, and this is a very nihilistic view. You don't know what caused you to get possessed. In my position, I can look to see that people around me would have been jealous if I got money. I can look at all types of things and see that I was becoming immortal and the stars were waking up to me and didn't want me to um, be happy and powerful because people were jealous that had influence in my life. So I was, because of the content of other people and the way they felt about me, potentially arrested. This was the time I was supposed to be rich, so if it would have went my way, I'd have got rich and lived heaven on earth, which is the Philosopher's Stone going my way. And it seems I got possessed because I was becoming immortal, okay? And people are jealous, and that's why. Alright, and I was in sort of a narcissistic, abusive environment. It seems that's what happened, okay? So in the beginning, it seemed like there was a giant sort of anomaly period, where people were a little bit hyperactively aware of your hyperactively lucid, okay, but nothing happened to me, and the types of damaging content going through my mind and dreams was so overwhelmingly bad, okay, and still nothing was happening. That yeah, I mean, I have not had any interactions with violence, and this is the background I came from, okay, the entire 6 years. So if that makes anyone feel better, okay, you would not have lost your soul if you got into a fight without the symptoms, but if you had symptoms, you would. And if you have symptoms, if you do not have symptoms and you got into a fight, it could make you get symptoms, and that's unfortunate. Anyway, so when that happened, obviously, the door thing, I was convinced even more that everything in the dreams was really happening to me. It seems like it was a giant setup that took so much effort on the part of all of the forces which make things form that it's just ridiculous to think it even happened. Okay, I mean, it was so realistic, it was ridiculous. And people would play along. So there was multiple types of parties that you could come up with that were threats. And okay, so if you have a memory from childhood of you being beaten up, for example, which I do, it was me being beaten up by two traveller gypsies, because for no reason. Okay, and this isn't really a traumatic event for me because it weren't that bad. I mean, I weren't in poor condition afterwards. It was sort of just a traumatic event to the subconscious. So it's not what you think to be bad, but the subconscious picks up on it. They would use things like they would use things like travelers then as a group that would do things to you, okay? And you would have no idea why, but you know that it's because of your previous memories that they would do it, okay? And then you would have drug dealers, things like this, drug dealers, gangsters, Secret Service, British Intelligence Agency, the company that got me arrested, and things like this, and aliens, okay? So I was a cyber criminal. I didn't do anything even bad, to be honest with you, alright? But the company that got me arrested, I had a friend who, just in case I'm ever famous, I am telling the truth, is now deceased. He was called Josh. He is now deceased. And he told me that the company was under investigation by the British Intelligence Agency because of their company being owned by a company in China, which was seemingly unrelated to what it was. Okay, that was under investigation for potential sort of things to do with weaponry. Okay, And so I was a little bit sketched out about all of this at the same time as well, because I was just arrested by a company that was under investigation by the British Intelligence Agency. And I know that someone else got arrested by the company once and was even interviewed by the government of the United Kingdom. So that sort of linked together in my head. Why the hell would he have been interviewed by the government of the United Kingdom? Okay? Because it was just nothing to do with it. Alright? And I was thinking that I had my phones and computer being surveilled there. And I also thought that the police could have thought that the reason for my arrest was a potential data breach, which is severe enough that they would have wanted to surveil me if it was. I didn't do any data breach though, okay? And so I thought that they could have wanted to be surveilling me also. And then everyone was acting up in real life, and it was just a centre point of absolute me being obliterated by the fact I have no free will. Okay. Anyway, when you are into crypto, you can store crypto on the internet in exchanges, or you can put it on a hardware wallet. I had a hardware wallet. There's only one way to get the money off the hardware wallet, and it's by torturing the guy, okay? Because you're not going to give it up if someone came to your house, are you? Alright, well I wouldn't have. And so in my mind at the time, I knew the only way that they could have got money from me, if I had any, was by torture. And I knew I didn't have any too. And that's it. Alright, I pretty much had nothing. No, it's not by torture, because the police took my hardware wallet. Anyway, right. It was not by torture, but it was, because there's exchanges and stuff like this. Okay, like, you're not going to give it up. Okay? So, I didn't have... I pretty much had nothing. I had enough money if I didn't sell any of my assets to move after a few months, but I was stupid and sold my assets, and that's because there was an altcoin bull run. I pretty much just... Oh, sorry about the cat. Shut up. I pretty much had many different style of threats, violence, and things like this. I'm going to upgrade this video a little bit. It's violence and threats and surveillance. Surveillance. Because there is so many different things. So you've got the groups of the police, groups of any forms of surveillance. And you've got the gods themselves. You've got aliens. You've got the government. You've got the Illuminati and things like this. The elites of the world and stuff like that. And that is... So we'll start with the basics. I thought, before my arrest, that I was a target. In fact, I wish I could talk more about it, but I can't. Okay? And that's it. They would never be able to find out who did it with the police, me saying this, so I'll just keep it as it is. It's sort of after it all happened and I got arrested is when things started playing up a little bit more because of the door situation and things. It felt like, but the reality of the situation is I'm almost certain that those were just random people, okay, and nothing else. That it was just some trait in the collective mind making it happen that came from the same point of view, okay? And here is the thing. Maybe everyone in the beginning didn't have insight in the astral, and as you gain insight, so do they. Okay, so maybe that's why there was an anomaly point there. I'm not sure if there is a reason why it felt like there was an anomaly point there. If that was just a stroke of luck, because nothing like this has ever happened again. And that's why I want to give peace and harmony to the people. Because they were doing the worst things to me in those dreams. And later down the line, I even confronted my friend and nothing was going on. Okay. There was I talked about it on, I think, video 2 or 3, astral influx surveillance. This is the convincing point. I was into cybersecurity. I was a black hat hacker, okay? I had things happen on my devices, like a burner phone turn on when I was running, all types of other things. What is it that did this to me? If no one was hacking me. And there is your answer. It's astral influx. It is almost the same point. It must be some part of universal understanding which leads to supercomputers being capable of doing the same thing. Okay? Certain types of mind supercomputer technology. It is going off your thoughts. So I would have thoughts and the YouTube video would change and things like this. Sometimes here and there, and I cannot control it. I can't. But I want to give you an example here, that one that was quite scary. So I was scared of being taken to a forest and sort of when I was kidnapped and taken to a forest. That was the story. Okay? And I won't go into detail about everything that made me scared of it. Okay? Nothing much is really going to come out of me doing that, so whatever. Anyway, right, it is what the story was, me being taken to a forest and kidnapped, the ultimate violent part of it, okay, by one individual, and we'll call his name just fucking kidnapper, okay, and that's it. So I had a fear of that. And sorry, my mind is just sort of blanking and I'm trying to fill in the gaps, so it's the same as last video. Apologies, just thinking. I don't know why my mind doesn't work the same as it used to. And I know this is a thing everyone goes through, but it's just you're hyperactively aware of all of the subtle things and you notice it more. And that's it. Yes, okay, surveillance. Astral influx. So, only about a year ago or so, because of the fact that I have been sort of alienified, it wants me to live like I live in ancient Babylon because, because of Allah or Shiva, right? Ancient Babylon or ancient India, but I can't. It's just not. We're not allowed to, and it's not the way it works. It wouldn't even be safe anyway. But we're not allowed. So I tried to make amends by going to Wales and living in the trees. Okay, I have no survival experience, but I was pushed to do it. I bought a bunch of equipment. I went there, got lost, and had to walk out for 20,000 steps until a random police car drove past me and picked me up and took me to Abergavenny, and I came all the way home. Well, I lost data on my phone when I got the Uber into. I went to Mynydde du Forest. Mynydde the Forest. You get it? Alright, that's how lucid everything is. Mynydde du Forest. I went to Mynydde du Forest, and on my phone, as I was coming out at night time, walking to try and find, without maps, to try and find my way out, I had eventually come into contact with Signal, and I was really happy that I got the signal. And so I needed to order an Uber. There was no Ubers that came though when I eventually tried, as it was way too far away. And so I logged into Binance, to sell some cryptocurrency. I am not rich at this point, but I had still a small amount every time I got paid that I could have put it on. Alright, I'm on benefits right now, unfortunately, because I'm not allowed to work, but still. I did this, and to order my Uber, and it searched on my phone Binance account based off of my thoughts, and that's because of the influx of torment that I have around the situation. Now, you're probably wondering something that I did. If this happened to you especially, how can I know that they're not going to do magic to frame me as a paedophile and things like this, or rob my accounts and money? Well, I'm the living proof because the entire 6 years it's never happened. Your mind must be a really good barrier of protection. And I mean really good. It must be also a symbolic nature of projection. They are not getting my Binance account. It just searched Binance account. You don't search Binance account. You open Binance and you do all types of other different things. And they couldn't do it. It must then be a symbolic form of projection. Okay? And your mind must be the interface of which is used to cause it. And it's astral nature that's causing it. And this is why I call it an astral influx. So this astral influx happened to me quite regularly, and it doesn't really happen anymore. But it made me very, very paranoid in the beginning. I thought someone was really there, and then I noticed it always went off my thoughts, and I eventually was in a position where I could have approached my friend, and I did, and he only really had what the fuck, I wouldn't do that to say, and things like this. So yeah, anyway, it really convinced me then. If you know how much effort was put into convincing me, tons of effort was put into convincing me that all of this was real. So it's not game, and that's it. It's not as easy as just saying that you can do this or can't do that, but I'm here telling you right now that I promise you right now, I have had 6 years and nothing has happened. And I know that they could frame me as a paedophile. If they could have framed me as a paedophile and the police come round, I will lose my soul. For sure. If the police come round right now and arrest me for this, I'm going to lose my soul probably on the spot. And that's all. Probably on the spot. They probably wouldn't even have to take me to the cell. When I was at my father's house, he got raided by the police because they suspected him for selling drugs. This was only a year or two ago. Drugs is nowhere near as severe as paedophilia, but they put me in handcuffs, and I had to deal with hearing a child voice in my left ear, crying and screaming, okay, as I sat there, and knowing the whole time that if I get taken to the cell, I'm probably going to lose it. But they uncuffed me and went because they found nothing, and none of us got taken to the cells there. But if they did, and it was close, I may have actually just lost my soul there, and that's it. Not that he was selling drugs or anything, my dad didn't, but I didn't know, obviously, whether or not they wanted to question us. But if it was something like paedophilia, I'd have definitely lost my soul. Okay. Anyway, that would be not just because of your fear, but the amount of torment that you've gone through, okay, and things like this. So I was also feeling like I was being framed as a paedophile, okay, and I know what people are like when they think about this stuff. They don't like to be intelligent with it because they care what others think of them. So they like to throw you under the bus even when you're not guilty, okay? And I obviously this is a problem with sheeps, that you I have a little bit of a better view about the humans in regards to this part than I used to. That they cannot accept the fact that you might not be guilty even if they're in your family. I know my family would have sided with me now, but back then I didn't, and things like this. Anyway, I sort of there was multiple reasons in my mind, okay, that could have came up that caused a lot of these situations to make sense, and the dreams were playing along and I didn't know. Like, 1, wanting to surveil you to see how much crypto you have. 2, wanting to frame you. 3, wanting to see what you're up to because it's the British Intelligence Agency and stuff like that. 4, even China and things like this, okay? And aliens and all types of stuff. But the main sort of story point here that was a focus for the demons was the kidnapping, okay? So this kidnapper, for the past 2 years or so, they've been saying, it's not you, it's your DNA, it's not what you did, it's what you did, and then the name of the kidnapper, they'd say, and things like this. And then they'd start saying things like, you're nasty, you know what you're doing, you need the money, it's not you, and things like this, okay, for 2 years. And it's like they're trying to make you the guy, okay, and things like this, turning against yourself, and all types of weird stuff, even when you're not doing it, and things like that, right? So it's awkward, okay? It's like, well, I know that when my friends were doing this, one of the things the demons were saying, and this is how smart they are, okay, is they're getting your money back, and then you feel like you're getting your money back because you should be rich years down the line, but really, it turns out that they've blocked your soul. Like I said, one of those friends were the friends that showed up when I started my business in a business suit, and I had to stop because I almost got fully killed. So my soul is blocked, and that's it. And things like this is what makes me have so much insight on psychology. I am going to make a separate video on this, but I want you to just think about what I said. There is a dimension beyond time in the psyche where everything on the other side in this dimension beyond time is a little bit more of a singular thing. So here you're a little bit spread out, right? And you'll notice it if psychic content starts when something that relates to it pops up next time. Let's say if you are possessed and you see in your sensory part of the brain, which is more useful than you think for visualizations. If you see like a deva pop up when you look at something that and he looks scared and you don't know why, and then something that connects to that in 2 weeks time tells you the reason why. It's like a dimension beyond time, and dimension beyond time is something I'm going to talk about in the psychological video a lot. But those demons are playing around with things, and it feels like they're playing in the past, even now as I speak, with that knowledge, though I can't understand how they could have ever been. Do you understand? I don't understand how they could have ever been, because I can try and play around myself to change the past, and I would have never known if it truly changed. But right now, the position I'm in is terrible, and that's all. Terrible. So, that is a really hard thing for you to understand. The fuzzy archetypal thing that can play into all types of things you don't understand for years. And obviously the major tactic 1 and 2 is useful to know, and the major tactic 3, violence and threats. So I think that if I saw all of this going on, and I could have framed myself as sort of doing the things I want to and frame them as doing the things that they're actually doing in a way to keep it the way it actually is, it would help me a lot. And that no one makes money that wants anything ill against you, stuff like this, because you won't want anything ill against yourself. Again, things like that. Unfortunately, you're obviously deceived by money at the beginning. You think that, oh, I don't want to sell my soul, but then you think about it more clearly and you're like, well, what is the trigger point? Why would an objective universe that's a singular thing, why would a universe that's a singular thing objectify money as a trigger point of you losing your soul? Like, when really it's just baseless and connected to everything else. It's because your mind is blocked, obviously. It's because your soul is blocked that it must have triggered it. Okay? But if you're not allowing it to trigger it, then that's what you want to do. You're not getting money for free from the demons. It's just because on Earth we're not allowed to live the way, a natural way. That you have to go to work or do your career or do whatever it is that you want to do. And you don't want to let the demons block you from doing it. And that's all. And that's what they did with me. So, there. Violence, then, must be the case that if I did not fall for this relationship thing, it must have been a plan B. And that's it. It must have. Because they could have just used the same concepts to get it in you. And I don't know if it could have worked without you having a real fight. But you surely could have been so close to having the penetration that it might not have even mattered. Okay? Or you don't need to have a fight. You might have been tricked into starting boxing. Okay? Right. Anyway. You can move on from this after you get the physical symptoms into the next part of why this is super important, because you might have fell for another thing. If you have the physical symptoms, every little threatening piece of thing that's ever happened to you is important. And it's unfortunate because it always seems like the only way to not have problems is being a fucking kid. Okay? And that's it. So you just sort of... Yeah. I mean, when I was training for the military, they wouldn't even let me do it like myself. I'm someone who actually loves the military and would have liked being in it too. But the way that they treated me early weren't nice. Okay? It was sort of like, I would like to do it, but I'm too progressive that I'd have needed to be rich at the same time if I'm not possessed, and I wouldn't have wanted to stay in there long. But if I was forced to do it, I wouldn't exactly think that I hate it. It's just they would take the concepts of maybe, okay, let's say you know as well about yourself as you do about others. So you know your own archetypal construct and you can see others. For example, you see that e-girls usually make friends with guys who are simps to lead them on and things like this. You see that goth girls oftentimes like BDSM. Okay? You see that a lot of like yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too insulting. Yeah. All right, but okay. Anyway, with my situation, they would take things like council estate chavs and things like this. I'm not a chav, even close. But I unfortunately had to be around a lot of them. Okay, but I'm not a chav at all. I mean, I like all types of music, whether it be rap, classical music, rock music, metal music, all of it, okay? But I cannot stand anything chavvy. But it's just sort something that I had seen a lot of people who are a little bit thick from council estates, but really kind. Okay, that just have like a chavvy family, and they're really kind, but just a little bit thick, and they would sort of like frame me as, even though I'm really smart, like this, and sort of make the personality say things in my head as though I'm them and stuff like this. So I was like complaining, I don't want to join the military as someone else. And the guy who I was being framed as isn't even like that too. But still, they would still do it. And I want to join the military as me. And they wouldn't let me do it. And things like this. So yeah, it just sort of, it just sort of made me, I guess, even more so becoming someone else. And that's it. And then they would, maybe I've heard stories and things like this of things like this happening to other people, okay, and I would sort of see those people look a little bit like the thick council estate type, and they would sort of actively frame me as the victim, and then they would do all types of other things like obviously the frame me as, okay, well, when that was going on, obviously it would change post your symptoms. It's not happening anymore. Not really. I mean, you're not deceived by anything, are you? But, well, is it true that I can track anyone down? Yes. I mean, I've got black hat skills that I can find all types of stuff that people can't find about people and things like this, which is a little bit like James Bond. Part of the group that was apparently surveilling me were mercenaries. Okay, I'm capable of finding people and things like this. You're not as strong when you first get possessed. You don't know how strong you will be after 6 years, but I framed myself as a paedophile, I guess. I mean, I know I'm going to be famous, and it's not what my intention was, but I probably will get tons of people who do not listen and things like this. And I don't care. Okay. I care only for the fact that I could play back in time and that's it. But I did it to protect my potential daughter if I was a demon. Or a son, right? And you just sort of... After 6 years, you can look at your death and think, if only I was only burned alive. You know? It's like... And then you think about movies you've watched, like Saw, and then you're like, that's really horrible, but would it be worse to be ground to pieces and burned alive for half an hour as your love is dropping bit by bit? I mean, I don't know how bad it is, but that's how they describe it. Okay? And that's all, and it seems to be the truth. And that's it. It's everything that feels pain, it's everything that is just being tortured. Yeah, the soul, the most fundamental aspect. And you just sort of can't take it. It's a massive overload to the mind, and you can't take it. And you have all types of mental tactics to try and handle it when you're in my position near the end. It's really hard to deal with. Okay. I don't want to scare people too much. I just got a real bad vibe. My best tactic is, well, we know physical torture has sadistic masochism. And we know that if someone's leg got chopped off, that they'll go unconscious. And you can say things like this and just assume by law that there has to be something if you're being ground to pieces and burned alive for that long. And there is. You are becoming something else. And it might be true that your nerves are burnt out and things like this, but you're becoming another spirit. Okay. So if you're becoming another spirit, you're still plunging into the unknown, but I can hang on to this and know that I will likely have some significant thing that makes you not completely annihilated for that long and feel everything for that long. Yeah. It's sort of the guy who's doing it to you, right? If you can call it the kidnapper, but there's all types of other archetypes too, is apparently surveilling you. Who is it that had the cybersecurity skills in the first place? Because it certainly weren't the drug dealers, it was me. Okay. So what is it that is doing this to you? And that's all. People are being framed as all types of things, like having your concepts, and in the end, I have become a little bit more militant. I used to want to be a businessman, okay? I like the military more than I used to. I haven't been in it because of my symptoms. I like it more than I used to like it. I want to be a dictator. I don't know if I will always want to be a dictator, okay? Based off some of the principles I have. I have an extreme lust for power, but I want to save the world. And I've always had an extreme lust for power, but it has changed. It used to be I want to be a billionaire and save the planet. Now I want to save the planet, but I want to save the planet spiritually. So I don't know if I'd always want to be a dictator, but I have this drive of wanting to be, okay? And it's in a way influenced by militancy and things like this. And I feel a bit James Bond-like, based off the sort of creative concepts I have and leverage over the world. And the fact that I have more alien intelligence than all of the governments on Earth and things like this. And you just sort of, you just add it all together and you piece it all together, and then it kind of looks like you are many of the archetypes who did things to you, doing it to you. And that's a problem. Then you will get angry at the fact that you're not stupid. Again, a problem. This is why I want to say, if you've entered the physical symptoms stage, I would have, well, personally, I'm not telling people to do it, okay, but don't, like, it's just me. If I did it, I would have committed suicide if I went back in time to the beginning. I was on the other side, I'd get more help, surely. You think that you're going to go to hell, but because you're only just beginning it, you are a lot closer to heaven than you think. 4 years I've had the symptoms, so yeah. Anyway, but there is a part of me that I think I'd already decided my fate, okay, and it was too late. There. And if I didn't care about myself and wanted to stay in the military and things like this, the demons would have so much leverage to make my life worse, and that's the problem. But my soul was blocked already, and I know it is. It was blocked already, and I do not know how much effort during these years has made it blocked or not blocked. All I know is I know it's blocked. Okay, and that's it. So, I know I can't make money without being tortured, and I am blocked. Right. Government, things like this. Okay. There's two entitled ends of the spectrum. There's the lower class and there's the higher class. Okay. The higher class are the least entitled if they made it themselves only. If they were born by posh parents, then they're not. They are not as superficial, seemingly, as the demons make them out to be, but they don't know what it was like to do it themselves, and they are raised around rich people, okay, and they gain some false sense of superiority, as though their self-esteem is way better, when really they've just always been on top of everyone and never had to deal with the things the lower class and the middle class have. And they get everything for free from their parents, so they don't know what it was like to make the money themselves. And then there's the lower class that does not know because they're on benefits, okay, and think that their problems are always the fault of the rich, when actually it's their family that's to blame and themselves. So, you just sort of have to deal with entitlement, and the collective mind knows who it is, and that seems to be making it so those guys never know what they're doing and things like this, but are always just your cap. But you can't have the cap of the posh guy because he got his money for free, so you can never get the money because he won't do anything, and things like this. You just sort of, yeah, and it's really bad, I'm afraid. Okay, and that's it. Obviously, there's a problem with the fact that I was framed as that guy who was friend with my friends, the military guy. I couldn't insult him without sometimes causing symptoms, okay? But the reason I'm not allowed to make money is because my friends have displaced my archetypes. As I said, they appeared in my room. So what is it that's going on here? Because I'm not allowed to insult the guy, okay? But I'm also not allowed to know what I'm doing without being them. And that causes issues. It really is a complex thing to go through. There is a thing with the government where it looks like you have a deva that mocks you, and the demons are trying to give the principles of the deva in the same way to others. So there's a false conspiracy theory on the earth of the Illuminati. That it started as the Illuminated Seers of Bavaria, okay, which is full of mortals. None of them have attained immortality like me. None of them. I used to think they did. They haven't. I give false credit where it went due, because none of them have, okay? But you think that they have, but they haven't, alright? And this theory seems to align well with what's going on with you, okay? You've got gods talking to you sometimes, here and there, okay? And you think, well, if I can do it, there must be people in power that have done this. And probably not since Egypt, so Egypt or Greece or Babylon or India, right? So it's just not really going on. But this is a shadow conspiracy theory. You are God who is becoming immortal, okay? And they steal through archetypal extortion for the shadow everything good from God and give it to the devil, who puts people in power that make the world worse or prevent it from getting better. And then the spirit of the Christians, who have some insight in spirit, pick up on this and start making conspiracy theories. Those guys serve as archetypes, which can only cause the future to get worse in a collective scenario ritual. So all of these people being blamed as being Satanists in power are creating Satanists in power, things like this. So it's just sort of, but I mean, we can hopefully put a stop to it, but it's just, They were taking the potential of my future power and just sort of like giving it away. And potential of, even if I weren't to have been the guy to run the world, you're still a soul, a collective soul, taking those principles and giving it away. And things like this, right? And it makes you feel like you're a soul lost to serve, to make it so, for example, the royal family or some random rich families keep their power. But these guys would have never done it to you, okay? They're not evil people. They'd have never done it to you, and you're convinced to some degree that they could have done it to you based off what you're going through, but they'd have never done it to you. It takes a really horrible person to be capable of doing that to someone, okay? And this just sort of becomes a giant soul block that feels like it's moulding the world itself, and you see all of the evidence in the shape of the devil's image. And it is true that that worked. Crowley caused World War II, the Holocaust of the Jews, the creation of the nuclear bomb, the bombing of Japan by nukes, and tried to cause 2/3 of the world or half of the world to be blown up. Now there's a rise in Nazism as I'm making this video because I'm possessed. I'm not a Nazi myself. I don't like Nazism. I'm not homophobic. I'm not racist. I wouldn't kill disabled people and things like this. So, but I do admire the militancy and the speeches of Hitler. I hate everything else. I am not even close to a Nazi, and but there is a uprising still. I'm not anti-Semitic. I consider myself a Zionist. Why am I a Zionist? Because I think that they deserve to have Israel, and that's what Zionists are. People who think that Jews deserve the Holy Land. They do. I don't see why they shouldn't. In fact, the fact that they do is really good, because what's the main problem with politics is spirituality and religion is left out too often. Okay, there. Anyway, it's just a thing that the demons do, and they use. It's like, I'm not saying everyone's guilty, but I feel like they maybe trick people in the collective mind into playing for the side of the demons. And you with our insight don't have much to be able to say at the beginning and things like this. And I know that it's sort of guaranteed that 95% at least of the humans will be killed without my help, because they aren't capable of fixing the world. And this makes me really, really angry at the human race, which causes issues with the seeming electricity of my brain. As I mentioned before, the scrunched up face, okay? It's like the people are trying to torture their grandchildren's souls, and wanting to do it to me based off my analysis. That's what it looks like they're doing. You would be called a Satanist for wanting depopulation. I don't want depopulation killing people, I want it through generations. Okay. The roads, the pavement should be pulverised, and trees and dirt there only. And we should keep the cities and keep the capitalist economy in the cities or anywhere. But free all of the land and allow people to make their own homes and farm and things. And this is my own political philosophy that works through generations, where we lower the population worldwide to 500 million. And this is the real New World Order, and you see that they have extorted the New World Order for globalism, okay, and things like this, okay, and the collective spirit is picking up on it. But you cannot avoid the way the universe works in spiritual law. So you have the true New World Order of the side of light, which isn't going to get done if people aren't able to actually understand. And that's it. So they give you reasons to hate everyone and everything, and it causes real major problems. So you are kind of just creating the universe you are a god of. And like I said, they're trying to make you someone else. And that is major tactic 1. Blocking your soul, this does to you, and things like this. Not allowing you to feel like yourself. Major tactic 2. Penetrating the nervous system with sex and things. Major tactic 3 was even linked to major tactic 2, but not linked. And this is an entanglement of mind concepts I'm going to talk about in the next video, okay, which is, and a lot of other concepts psychologically. Obviously you're going there, if you know the story from the previous video, I was going there to meet a woman, okay, but there's all types of scenarios internally, like you being kidnapped, raped and beaten up. That could have been psychologically entangled, yet you're not going there to have this happen to you. So it just sort of is a problem, and that's it, okay, and that's it. Anyway, it's everything to do with violence, unfortunately. Even though the way I would have been preferred to save my soul by the God of Israel is joining the military, and this is the case after I'd fell for some DNA or astral trick. So I believe I might have told you in Major Tactic 1, if not I should have done. I was told by the God of Israel not to go out with my friends one time. He was channeling me, and I saw his face, and he barely ever channels you, but this was one time he did, and it's always important when he does. I saw his face, and I thought to myself he was just protecting me from the girl who was really real, okay, that was going to show up, and I thought, well, I have self-control, I'm not going to do anything, I just want to know, and that would be better for me. And I didn't really know if he was actually saying anything at the same time. It's like I knew those words were coming into my head, but basically I know that he did and was there, and they were already on the way, and I didn't want to be rude, right? Well, after the scenario happened, he was angry at me in channeling when I got home, and the event of this was never explained to me by him, why he wanted me not to do it. And later down the line it was that I'm becoming him instead of myself. That was the reason, based off the events that happened when we were outside, sort of triggered my friends to act this way. And this is the problem that I said about praying to gods and how it made them look guilty, as I was doing it for them. I created the conspiracy theory of the ancient gods misusing mankind to enslave them for money based off this. I also created the Pizzagate conspiracy theory because of this, because they were apparently sacrificing me so the elites gained or stayed with their power. I became immortal at the Star of Bethlehem, which was 21st, well, it weren't the original Star of Bethlehem, but the sort of Maya Star of Bethlehem, which was at the end of the Maya calendar, which was 21st of December 2020. 2012, according to Coptic time, this was. In 2020, this was the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, the Christmas star, okay? And this is the blue star Caecina from the Harpy prophecy. And that's around when I was becoming immortalized, okay? And ultimately, it was like I was just, unfortunately, a death based off the planet that I was living on. And I was tricked into handing over all of the power without handing it over to the devil, and that is it. Which, if you look at the Rothschild ball, you see that they have cats leading lost guests to a table with, in their own words, extra lucid and postcoital sadness food. Okay? So we know what postcoital sadness is, and we know extra lucid sounds like because I'm a lucid man. Okay? And the cats being some archetypal demons leading lost guests. You went down the wrong path, and yes. So I could have projected that family, their entire dynasty, and all of the other families, and I'm not sure if I did. Okay? They're not to blame, they haven't done anything wrong. Okay? But it is just unfortunate that they're sat there looking like an archetypal example of the situation. This is so centrally lucid that you create every conspiracy theory that is based off the events internally to you and everything. And I didn't know this until I started looking at Pizzagate and what they thought about it, and saw that they even have the spirit cooking conspiracy theory. I was like, what? This stuff has been happening to me for the past year, at least. Okay, and they're talking about it, but the facts are that no one's actually doing it. Okay, the demons are doing it, and that's it. And it's about archetypally giving away concepts. Alright, and stuff like that. The demons are doing it. Okay? And that makes you really, really angry, and it makes you feel like the whole world is lost. It feels like you weren't born when you were born. It feels like you were born when you were becoming a god, because you created the universe, and you unfortunately did it poorly and chose this planet. And that's it. It's really hard to forgive what happened to you. If you have the physical symptoms, you need to know it's really difficult to forgive. Can you imagine you wanting to live your life like that? Okay? You may have been blocked from some of the things that make you happy. You want to know you're truly blocked, though? I think it is... you'd want to know where you can draw the line. In my opinion, things that improve your life are likely to be more likely. So it's like, if you're not a capitalist but you was a musician, I don't think you're blocked from making music if you're doing it in your bedroom. But if you wanted to be a famous musician, then they might have blocked that already. And that's it. So it's a problem, and that's all. I know that if I wanted to fix this, and this is a point, because a lot of people would want to fix it, obviously, I would have probably needed to get rid of the demon first, because the demon is going to entangle themselves with you, and then I would have been able to do it. I think that framing the people who are good and want you to keep your soul as doing what it is you're doing or wanting to do, and framing you as doing it whilst alive and stuff like this, up to years before ever actually doing it, is helpful, probably. But when you're already entrapped by a demonic force, it's a bit of a problem. So violence and threats and surveillance. Major Tactic 3. Hope this helps. The next few videos, I believe, since I've explained the three major tactics, I'm going to be covering a whole lot of wide range topics like religion, psychology, what I would do from the beginning if I was to go back in time from day one, which is a very specific thing that everyone should watch, and all types of other things. So I hope this helps you.